What was it like going home from the Navy and seeing everyone again?
Oh, I had really missed being home. Just no homebody. Had never been away from home before, and just a wonderful feeling. Just, just a great time.
What was the first job you had after the war or career?
Uh, I was a bookkeeper. I had after the war. I went after I got out of service. I went to school to. I was studying to be a CPA, and I got a job as a bookkeeper, and I worked as a bookkeeper for quite some time. And after that, of course I was married during got married during that time, and I had a child, and I told my wife one day I thought I'd like to teach school. I thought I would like to teach school, and so I went to Statesboro to. It's now called Georgia Southern, but back in those days it was called Georgia Teachers College, and I was going to get a 2-year certificate to teach school, and I thought I wanted to teach math, and that's what I was going to major in, math, and so, but this was in 1951, and 2 weeks after I had gone down there, I had enrolled in school. The school had obtained an old army barracks that they were fixing up for GIs and their families to live in while they were going to school, and we made arrangements for us to have an apartment. So, but 2 weeks after that, about a month before I was supposed to start the school, I got orders to report for active duty during the Korean War. So that killed that. I never did go back to school. I was recalled during the Korean War and served a year during that time.
Hmm.
And then after that, I got out and went to work out here on the base, and worked for them for 30-something years. Before I retired in 1982.
How'd you feel about when the United States first got into the war, and how, Japan just bombed Pearl Harbor, and what was going through your mind during that time?
Well, I was fear, I guess. I was, I guess it, I was really just a teenager at the time. I was about, let's see, 14 or 15 years old when the war broke out. So I was afraid. I just don't know, other than that, that's the worst part, I guess, is the fear that we might be overrun by some other country, and lifestyles might be changed, lose our freedoms.
Um, what was it like when the United States first going into war and there's rationing and things like that, and people had gas rationing and rubber rationings? What was some experience or things you went through during that time before enlisting?
Well, it was tough, but people survived that without a lot of difficulty. Uh, Farmers were able to do their job. They were able to get extra rations for fuel for their farm equipment and this kind of stuff. And uh, my father was an automobile mechanic, and he He was a service manager at the Ford place in Wrightsville, Georgia, for a number of years. But we lived, fairly decent, I think. We didn't suffer too much. Now probably were other folks that had a lot rougher than we did, but things were rationed. Fuel was rationed. Some grocery items were rationed. But being a teenager, just a fresh teenager, I didn't have much responsibility, only to go to school and that kind of thing. So.
You were talking about earlier how you enlisted so that you wouldn't go to the Army. Did you have any friends or people you knew that were getting drafted and kind of wanted to make your decision of doing that?
Well, I think a boy that I grew up with, he and I lived next door to each other. He had gone into the Navy, and seems like he was home every other weekend. And I thought that was the thing for me. I could be home every weekend, but that didn't happen to me. I went through boot camp, got to go home one time, and then I didn't get to go home till the war ended. So, I'm not. I don't regret going into the service at all. I think back on. I know I was disappointed when I didn't get to go to school and become a school teacher. I think the good Lord protected me there. I don't know that I would have made a very good school teacher. But my life has been good.
On the USS Herman, what was some of the things that you did to pass the time?
During the war?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't have a whole lot of free time to do anything. Like I said, during the war, our duties were 4 on and 4 off. We would go on watch, or I would go on watch for 4 hours, and then I was working in the fire control department, which is the electronic systems which controls the gunnery systems on the ship. I worked in that area when I didn't have a watch. I would work in the maintenance department, maintaining the gunnery, electronic equipment, which directed the guns and that kind of stuff. I did train as a optical rangefinder in the main battery directory at one time. I was also elevator operator and azimuth operator in the main battery directory. So, but we didn't have a lot of free time to. There was a lot of. We played cards a lot, pinochle or blackjack or something like that.
Did you ever get the opportunity to go off the ship and look around the islands that you were on, and if so, what islands?
We didn't do much. No, the only time that we ever got to go ashore, we did go to what they call R&R. At one time we would go down, maybe we'd get 1 day off. We'd go ashore. They would, they carried beer aboard the ship. They did not serve beer during the time you were at sea. They would not serve any beer at sea or aboard ship at all, period. But they did carry it so that when we got to a little old island, it seems to me like we went to a little island called Ulysses. It was a very small island, but they would let us go ashore. We could play ball, and they would give us a case of beer or something to take with us. And but I didn't like the taste of beer, so it didn't thrill me. But the other guys really enjoyed the beer anyway. But the only time I remember them ever serving beer was when they announced that the Japanese had surrendered, that they broke out the beer and served everybody that wanted a beer. So as a celebration.
You mentioned earlier that you also served in the Korean War. What was the difference between World War II and the Korean War that you felt?
Oh Lord, the technology. During World War II, the radar that we used was not very sophisticated. But when I went back in during the Korean, radar systems had improved so much. The technology, I was assigned, rather than the surface fire control system, I worked on the underwater battery fire control system during this time. I was assigned a ship, the USS Beale, DDE 471, which had been converted. It was a Fletcher class destroyer, just like the USS Herman was, that I served on during World War II. But it had been converted to what they call an anti-submarine ship. And I worked on the underwater battery system, which tracked submarines and trying to destroy submarines. This was our mission. We used sonar instead of radar. So we were, and I enjoyed that. I was able to learn more during the Korean War than I did during the World War II, because I guess I had matured a little bit, and it meant more to me to learn that. But I was glad to get out, because I had a wife and a young daughter, and got out and went to work on the base, Warner Robins Air Force Base, and worked for the Air Force for 30-something years.
Did you wish that the United States did something different during World War II, or anything that you felt that would have been better or could have changed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I asked you, anything that you felt like the United States could have done better or different in World War II that you feel that would have improved or made a difference?
I guess not. I don't know of anything that we could have done any different. Just not. I guess I never really thought about it much.
Mm-hmm.
Just we did our job, and I never thought about could we do it different or better, or could we treat each other different or better or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was always afraid of the Japanese. When the war ended, I was able to go into Japan probably maybe about 15 days after the occupation troops went in, and I was so amazed at the reception of the Japanese. I just expected them to be. I was afraid of them, and I guess I was expecting to be afraid of them, but they seemed to be acceptance of what was going on, losing the war to us, and our people occupying their country.
Can you go on a little bit about that, being in Japan for 15 days?
I did. I only just went into town one day, and then we left. we didn't stay in there.
Oh, okay. Um, and any other people that you during World War II that you served with that kind of stood out from everyone else that you never forgot about, or
Yeah, I served as the ship that I was on in 1988 began to see the war ended in 45, but in 1988 about 5 or 6 guys had put together a book, and they planned a reunion of the crew, or as many as they could get together, and they had a reunion of the crew members in California. I was trying to think of the name of the little town now, but not little town, but it was on San Francisco Bay. And my wife and I went out to that, and I told her that a young man that he was from Gray, Georgia. He and I joined the Navy together and left Macon, Georgia together and stayed together till the war ended. And I told my wife I may not recognize anybody else, but I would know him. Well, we get there, and we were during our flight. We did not have. I don't believe that we were served a meal, so we were hungry. We got to the hotel and checked in, and went across the street to a hamburger joint and got us a hamburger, and we sat down in there, and there was a couple sitting in the restaurant and had a badge on that I knew that he had registered for our reunion. And told my wife, I said, I'm going to go back and speak to him. And I went back and speak to him, and it was the guy from Gray, Georgia, that I knew that I would never forget. But he had changed a lot since the last time I had seen him.
what was basic like? Basic training and everything like that.
I'm sorry.
What was basic training like?
Well, it was tough on me because I had never undergone that kind of discipline. We had several guys